There, I'm Shivani Bhargava, founder and CEO of The Right Margin, and part-time product consultant for early-stage companies. And today I'm going to walk you through a workflowy hack that I use to stay productive on a week-by-week basis. This is great for folks who are pretty organized and like creating to-do lists and using project management tools, but find that those often go stale without the heavy time and effort required to maintain and update them. It's also great for people who work in pretty unstructured environments, such as entrepreneurs, freelancers, writers, etc. And finally, it's a great way to track your productivity and personal velocity on a week-by-week basis. So first step, fire up WorkFlowy. Create a bullet for your week sprint to hold your stories or tasks. I like to put my tally up here as well, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Then think about some of the major things you need to get done that week. I've got some pre-filled here, so we're not wasting time on this video. But let me go ahead and add another one. Maybe finish WorkFlowy personal sprint screencast. It's always great to have action verbs attached to your goals to make it actionable and reachable, but not necessary. After you've come up with your major goals or tasks for the week, challenge yourself to break them down. This requires maybe about 5 minutes of brainstorming and planning, but ends up being the most helpful thing you can do to actually get things done. So if you break a larger goal into smaller tasks and steps, you're actually much more likely to reach that larger goal. Common sense. So let's come up with some here. Maybe write script, edit script, maybe send script to friend for feedback. So I'll stop here, but I definitely can come up with more. And let's go ahead and expand all of these out and pretend like I came up with a good list of tasks for my week. So you'll notice that a bunch already have points after them. And that's the next step. After you have broken down your tasks, you want to go through each one and roughly estimate them. You can use any point system you want. I personally like to use Fibonacci because it's a great way to estimate different tasks by relative complexity. And also, if you ever find yourself estimating something higher than a 5 or 8, then it usually means that you need to break down a task or sort it even further. So let's go ahead and do that as an example here. So writing a script could take a while. Not particularly difficult, just time intensive. Maybe editing is a little less complex than that. And sending an email to a friend, could be like a task. So let's give that a 1. So now that you've estimated your entire backlog of work for the week, the next step is to prioritize your backlog. Fact of life, there's only a limited amount of time in a week, and your personal capacity to do things can change based on lots of life factors. So it's always good to have a goal you're trying to reach for the week. So for instance, here, 25 points. You don't have to get this right, by the way, just take a stab. And then if you have a prioritized backlog and you don't end up getting as much as you'd like done, at least you've gotten the most important things done. So you can groom your backlog pretty easily in WorkFlowy in many different ways. So for instance, you could drag and drop your various tasks. You can also prioritize the themes. You can create a whole new bucket here called priority tasks, and then drag in tasks that are especially important in priority order. My personal favorite, you'll already notice that I've done this here, is to bold the tasks that I think are very important to do first, and then keep them in their separate buckets and maybe just prioritize the themes. So find whatever works for you. And then as you go through the week, you can also complete various tasks and tally them up here. So at the end of the week, or maybe at the beginning of the next week when you're ready to do sprint planning again, you can then close out the week and start a new one. So for instance, you can collapse this. Go ahead and copy paste this. Collapse this, or complete it. Let's say it's complete. And maybe start a new week with a new tally and maybe drag this into a bucket called old sprints. So I hope that's been a helpful trick to leverage an awesome and flexible tool to increase your weekly productivity. Feel free to read my blog post on this topic for further clarity and some pros and cons on using this hack on an ongoing basis. Thanks for listening.